That's a very good question. I think there are three steps in which through which we can really approach our younger generation in making them come closer to the Quran. The Quran is a big book. It's like a 550 page or a 600 page book. And when you give it to your child, I mean, it's like a big challenge that he might have. So I take it as a three-step or a three-phase thing that we can adopt. The first is that before you give the Quran in the hands of your child, give him a small introduction to the Quran like booklet. So there are booklets which we can refer you to, which are like very brief introduction to what the Quran is all about. What is the topic? What is the language? What is the theme? What exactly is the nature of its arrangement? So it's like a primer to the Quran, an introduction to the Quran, and this sets the background correct. So your child or your teenager will get to know what to expect when he or she enters the Quran. Otherwise, you see, when you enter the Quran, it starts off with a debate with the Bani Israel, and that's a very long chapter. And and he or she would not know what relevance is it to her or him, because the Bani Israel, they don't directly figure with our own fate. The second important thing is that give the child a selection from the Quran type of a book, in which the Quran is selected verses of the Quran have been compiled. And again, there are a number of efforts that have been done in this regard. That before you even give him the Quran or her the Quran, give her or him a short selection passages from the Quran. This would be something which would make him or her realize that this is what is going to come in detail, and some of the verses would be much more relevant because selections have been done on the basis of how you can get connected to the Quran. So the first step would be to introduce your child to the Quran, to that book. The next step would be that he reads or she reads the selections part, and then in the third step you tell your child to read any good translation that he or she might have. And you know what, the way that I picked up, and which has become it is very, very, I would say, useful, is that when you enter the third phase, when you give the whole Quran, uh, one trick, I call this a trick, is that instead of asking your child to read it from Surah Fatiha, tell him to open the Quran from anywhere he or she would be every day and just read 10 verses. And you'll realize that this is because of the fact that the message of the Quran is repeated time and again. So the child would get an assortment of different messages every day that he or she gets up. Otherwise, if he starts reading one surah, because there are certain surahs that are very long, so before 5 minutes are over, you would not like to know what exactly has happened, or you would not be able to know. So the best step in the third phase is also that you just ask your child to open the Quran from anywhere and then read through. But before that happens, it's always good, as I said, to first make the child introduce him to the Quran, and then to a few selected passages, and then, as I said, in this method.